This show may contain explicit material. Listener discretion is advised.
Hey y'all, Marquis here. Once again, it's time to look at the best songs a year has to offer. And this time it's the best songs of 2023. Now admittedly it was an interesting year. Quite a bit of bad music released this year, but that doesn't mean that we didn't get a few hidden gems this year. Matter of fact, we actually have quite a few of them. So without any further ado, which is fancy terminology for without the extra unnecessary bullshit, let's get into the songs that made this year a special one. When it came to collab albums this year, there were quite a few highly anticipated ones. Kanye West and Ty Dolla $ign, which still has yet to come out. Metro Boomin and Future, which still has yet to come out. Madlib and Mac Miller, which might never fucking come out, and Youngboy and Carti, which God knows when that's happening. But out of any of the collab projects I have listed, there was not a single one that was more hyped up than JPEG Mafia and Danny Brown. And for good reason. At times, both rappers have proved themselves to be quite versatile. And by knowing this, we could only hope that this project would not only be experimental in both of their musical lanes, but that it would also be fun. And when the project actually dropped, I was not disappointed because they knocked it out of the fucking park.
This ain't what you want. No, this ain't what you want. Fuck y'all niggas, I feel like.
Now obviously not everyone's gonna like this type of music. I mean, most times with distorted drum patterns, it just doesn't work. And not to shit on Lil Darky's music or anything, but most times he's just yelling on this distorted beats for the sake of yelling on distorted beats. But at least with Peggy, he knows how to make a beat that does have distorted drum patterns with it being interesting at the same time. What he does as a producer, who with his vocal sample chops he's on level closer to scaring Kanye away. He takes this sample of I Need a Girl by Diddy, and what follows is a high energy banger where both rappers go off. With a beat like this, it fits both of them in a good way. And by doing this, both artists on either end can give it all they got and make this song as memorable as it was living up to be. I mean, hell, Peggy even references track 5 on LP in his verse. Overall, this song was a great listen, and so was the rest of the album. And if you really like both Peggy and Danny's music, then you're definitely gonna love this album. So Drake dropped For All the Dogs this year, and while it did not live up to expectations, which is very evident when you look at what I scored the album, it still had a few good songs on it. Guaranteed though, not every song is good, but the moment I heard track 17 from this album, I knew we would be in for a treat.
It's weighing heavy on my moral scale, knowing they gon' sell another Citizen Kane. They think they.
So after the mediocrity that followed everything after the Screw the World interlude that was a chopped and screwed version of If I Ruled the World by Nas, we finally got to the best song on the album. Track 17, 8 AM in Charlotte. And let me tell you, this one was special. This song was unlike the rest. Because you know it's a time-stamped song. This one's gonna hit differently than the rest. And you know Drake's gonna come through with his lyricism. That is also clearly so due to the production from Conductor Williams. If you don't know who he is, he worked with basically every member of Griselda. He worked with Westside Gunn, Conway the Machine, Rome Streetz, Benny the Butcher, you name it. And I was excited to hear that he got a production credit on this song, because up to when this album released, I loved everything that he has worked on up to this moment. So then, because I couldn't wait any longer, I clicked play and experienced the true greatness this song truly was. The song title is based off the city located in North Carolina, and usually when it comes to these time-stamped songs, they usually contain the time it currently is when they are recording in that said location. And, of course, it also contains the name of the location he's at. To give you an example as to how Drake would come up with a title like this, I'll give you my own take on a Drake time-stamp song title, 4 AM in the Bronx. So now that you got an idea of how those time-stamp songs work, let's get into the lyrics of this song. He starts the song off by saying that he's still out here doing this shit, which is what he means when he's saying that he's out here on the road. It then gets into the first verse where he says, "The money speaking for itself. I call it fortune tell." This line is a double entendre where basically Drake says that he doesn't need someone to tell him what his fortune is because he already knows that he made quite the fortune. It's some clever wordplay there, which is mainly the reason why I like this song. Then a few bars later he says, I leave for tour and my niggas fucking go to jail. This is in reference to Tory Lanez getting sentenced to 10 years in prison while Drake was on It's All a Blur tour with 21 Savage. This isn't the first time he talked about the Tory and Megan situation. He previously brought it up on track 9 on her loss called Circo Loco where he raps, "This bitch lie about getting shot but she's still a stallion." This line caused controversy when the album first released in November 4th of 2022 and people mostly thought that Drake was talking about Megan Thee Stallion getting shot by Tory Lanez in the leg after promptly telling her to dance bitch. Yachty then had to clarify this by stating that Drake was talking about women getting ass shots and that it wasn't about Megan. This wouldn't matter though because the entire lyric would age like sour milk when Tory Lanez actually got jail time for doing this. So I guess Drake was wrong, but when is he not? We then get to the next bar I wanna talk about, which is preaching to the dogs bout wantin' more for themselves. Drake refers to his homeboys as dogs and says that they want more for themselves. Or at least that's what Drake hopes. Then the next bar that follows is, "It's weighing heavy on my moral scale." This is a double entendre as well where Drake not only refers to his moral compass which is being tested by his homeboys, but he also refers to a scale. Something that can be used to weigh something. Mostly people though. So I thought that bar was cool as well. The bar that comes after that is, "Now in they gon' sell another Citizen Kane. They think they Orson Welles." Orson Welles plays the main character of Citizen Kane, a 1941 drama movie that scored a 99% on Rotten Tomatoes. So that's a neat little reference there. The next bar that follows is, "Walk in Chanel. They like how the fuck you need more Chanel?" Because Chanel knows that Drake has already gotten plenty of Chanel. They question why he needs to add more to his collection considering it's pretty huge. This is a reference to his fame where he can basically afford all the Chanel he wants to now. And that's important to note when it comes to this song. That it's a reflection of where Drake is at now. It's kind of catching you up to date on the exact moment leading up to the album's release, which is cool in hindsight. It's also what Drake does best on these time-stamped songs. Reflect on his thought process. A few bars later, we then get to a really good bar Drake puts on the song. "I say, we gotta talk about us. I feel like Jordan Peele." You might not get this bar off of first listen, but I'll explain it to you. Us is a horror movie directed by Jordan Peele that released in 2019 where the main character is confronted by her traumatic past and is destined to find out the truth. I highly recommend you watch this movie. Few bars later and we get the bar. "Could tell I'm getting under your skin like an orange peel." To get under someone's skin means basically that you're irritating them, which is not Drake's intent at all. As for the wordplay here, when you peel an orange, the skin is underneath it. And that's what Drake's referring to here when he says under your skin like an orange peel. Next bar we get is, "Cause your words don't match your actions like a foreign film." When films from other countries get brought over into the US, the dubbing might not be on par with what was actually being said in the original movie. And this isn't just the case with movies though. This also happens to shows from other countries as well. For example, when Squid Game was released in 2021, there was an English dub released alongside it. However, what the people in the dub were saying didn't quite match up with what the characters were actually saying, making their mouth movements look weird. The original show was meant to be watched in Korean. Obviously, not everyone knows Korean, and I don't blame you for choosing the English dub. It's just that you might have been better off picking the Korean sub instead. But basically what Drake means by this is that this girl will say one thing and then do the other. We've all been through this before, right? So it's nothing new to us men for women to give us mixed signals. I mean hell, I full on expect it at this point. The next bar that follows is also referencing films. "And now it's silence in the Lamb like the horror film." So Lamb is slang for a Lamborghini, an expensive car your favorite rapper probably owns. And basically Drake is saying that all the people in the Lamborghini got silent all of a sudden. This is also a double entendre because it's in reference to the 1991 horror film Silence of the Lambs where Clarice is interviewing a psychiatrist named Hannibal Lecter. I also highly recommend that you watch this movie. The bar that follows is, "Things get quiet after me" stating the obvious, which better explains the meaning of the first bar. The reason why it got silent in the Lamborghini is because Drake was telling the truth. She, admittedly, didn't want to believe that, which is why this is the last conversation that Drake will ever have with this woman. A few bars later Drake reflects on his success and shouts out a few people that helped get to his top position. The first is Oliver El Khatib, who, in this verse, is referred to as his nickname Oliver North, where he states, "Shout to Oliver North. He out in Rome doing Toronto shit." For reference, Oliver is Canadian, meaning he's from Toronto, Canada, and he states that Oliver is currently in Rome. He then shouts out his security guard Jeremiah when he states, "And Jeremiah the watchdog, you niggas know what time it is." This is another double entendre wherein, being a watchdog, you keep watch of everything that's happening and make sure that nothing bad happens. And if something bad happens, then he'll be sure to handle it. This is also in reference to a watch which displays the time, but they already know what time it is, so there's no need to check. He also shouts out Central C and 21 Savage, which are both UK rappers. He references Central C by saying hoes waitin' on Sench in the lobby. That boy a lobbyist. At the time of Drake making this song, he already collaborated with Central C on his On the Radar freestyle, which is currently the most popular On the Radar freestyle ever made. He then references 21 Savage by saying Savage got a green card straight out of the consulate. Drake has collaborated with 21 Savage multiple times, even producing a collab album together in 2022. This bar in particular though is in reference to 21 Savage's interaction with ICE when he got into America. At the time, he was classified as a British immigrant who needed to obtain a green card in order to stay in America. This was revealed through ICE documents that were shown that 21 Savage got locked up. He was able to get a green card though, as revealed on his guest verse on By Chance by UK rapper Gibbs. And so this feels like a moment of celebration for 21 Savage now that he's officially an American citizen. And now going into the second verse, Drake states that he's moving different in terms of his musical output and streaming numbers before starting the second verse off with the bar, "Diamonds do the silly dance. I raise up the wine glass." I think this is most likely a reference to the song Diamonds Dancing, track 4 from the collaborative project he and Future made together called What a Time to Be Alive. The next bar that follows is, "Metal detectors beeping and security bypass." This is a double entendre and I'll explain why. When you're walking around with ice on, people might pull out a metal detector to detect whether the ice is real or not. For Drake though, they let him pass through because they already know that for someone with a status as high as his, you could probably tell that his ice is genuine. This is also in reference to the airport where they check your stuff using metal detectors before you can pass through. He previously mentioned the William P. Hobby Airport, an airport that he often goes to in the first verse where he said, "I'm in and out of Houston Hobby so much, I'm a hobbyist." Because Drake has been on so many flights, he considers it a hobby of his. And usually when he goes on these flights, security lets him pass by because of his high status. The next bar afterwards also talks about his high status, specifically when he says the numbers going up, which he then follows up with "Someone pull up the line graph." A line graph is a visualization of how something's doing, with that something in this case being Drake's career. This is another way of him saying that numbers wise, he's doing really well. He just charted a hit song with J. Cole on it, which gave him his first ever #1 hit, something J. Cole always strived to get. He also gave Yeet another #1 hit, adding to his success as well. And for everything that he does, the numbers continue to go up and he continues to strive. And he has been able to for about 15 years now. And his growth might never stop. He might even surpass the amount of streams Michael Jackson has, in which he referenced that on First Person Shooter. The next bar is in reference to how much time went by since this all happened. "The days are going by. It's like I'm living in time lapse." A time lapse is a measure of time in which events happen. In this case, it's a measure of how much time it's been since Drake achieved these feats. And it took a lot of time, but he's here now. In the next bar Drake gives another shout out to someone in his circle. This time it's Adele Future Prince Nur, a business partner of his, where he states, "Been talking to Adele like he majored in finance." This is in reference to Drake sitting down and talking with Adele about his next decision. He is a producer who worked on both Euphoria and Top Boy, Drake's very own Netflix show. This is also in reference to the company Dell, which specializes in finance. The next line after that is, Shania Twain, Notepad, I'm marking it line dance. This is not only in reference to Drake's songwriting but also in reference to the popular line dancing song by Shania Twain called Any Man of Mine. The line after that is, "You trinna rob me, and it gon' feel like you sitting at yo favorite restaurant cause that's where you dine at." Drake here states that if you try to rob them then you're getting shot and killed. And that's also the case for trying to rob me. So you better not do it. I'm warning ya. A few lines later and we get the bar. "Long kiss goodnight. PDA for my enemies." This bar is in reference to the 1997 Notorious B.I.G. song Long Kiss Goodnight. By doing this Drake is putting his enemies into a deep sleep, which is another way of him saying that he's killing his enemies. Meanwhile PDA stands for Public Display of Affection, which follows up the Long Kiss Goodnight. Then we get a golf bar afterwards. 300 acres. PGA on the premises. So basically Drake here is saying that he bought 300 acres of land which is long enough to be classified as a PGA course. For those unfamiliar with golf, a PGA course is the course you play the game on. And if you don't know what PGA stands for, then it stands for the Professional Golfers Association of America. He then follows this up with, "That's what's really brackin' like this verse in parentheses." Drake does the classic thing of swapping the C's in words to B's, representing 9 Trey blood affiliation. And obviously a bracket is a type of parentheses you can use around a word. And then the last bar of the second verse is, "I'm givin' hits to niggas on some. Don't even mention it." This is in reference to the guest features that Drake has been giving to up-and-coming rappers as of recently. And this is known as the Drake effect, which is basically your song getting a boost in numbers because it has Drake on it. The first instance where this happened was when Drake gave a feature to up-and-coming rapper Trouble. And ever since then he has kept his streak of giving these artists features. And that's that. For the third and final verse, Drake talks about rappers earning money than what they make, which might be a diss towards YoungBoy himself. Won't be the first time someone dissed him. J. Cole also took shots at him on Yachty's The Secret Recipe, where he said, "Incoming call. Press the button. The one that say accept." He FaceTimed to ask for a feature and saw the face of death. This is in reference to when Cole was waiting 8 hours for YoungBoy to show up to the studio. He never did, and then he ended up dissing him on Fuck the Industry Part 2, where he dissed him for doing a song with Lil Durk. He then clapped back here and basically said that he would murder the track he's featured on. This is in reference to how Cole takes over your track with one simple feature. And once that happens then it's no longer your song. Besides Durk, he also gave features to J-Hope, Gutsy Mane, Nicki Minaj and Burna Boy recently. So basically being said, Cole is currently having the best feature run of his career right now. Now back to Drake. The next line that follows is, "You niggas obsessed with me." And it's not on no hetero vibe. Here Drake states that people are so obsessed with him to the point where he questions their sexuality. This is also a direct shot at Charlemagne, who is obsessed with Drake. After the criticism he gave Drake on Slime You Out, he responded by asking if he's okay and why he's acting like this towards him. It's crazy though, because there's a lot of Drake dick riders as well. Not saying I am one, but you can't be straight if you're this obsessed over him. Like, you just can't. Next few bars are about how Drake handles his rap beefs. "Handle beef so quiet. You think that I'm letting it slide." When Drake gets involved in beefs, he's usually silent on his end unless there's a certain reason for him not being silent on his end. Whether that's because they expect him to diss them back or because they are trying to expose him. But either way he doesn't usually be vocal on his end. Next thing you know, we tiptoeing past enemies' lines. This is him making peace by going over to enemy bases and squashing the beef. It usually does work and they forget about the beef that they had. But this next bar is about what happens after you get dissed by Drake. "Diss me so long ago. We making your memories fly." Basically because it's been so long, they probably forgot about the beef because their memories about it were shot out of their head by Drake himself, who did not forget about the beef. The next bar is in the same vein as that. Conspiracy theories start floating round like the Kennedy guy. Because of how Drake handled the beef, certain theories about them will start floating around. This is, of course, in reference to shooting his opponents in the head, which we discussed in the previous bar. And because it is unknown of what really happened, conspiracy theories will start coming up about what really happened. But frankly nobody's gonna get the truth from Drake himself. The same thing happened with X, where after he died he kept it quiet on his end. but that didn't stop people from thinking that he was involved with X's murder. To further justify this, he did not show up to X's trial, but that didn't stop him from sending a few more shots at X while he was still dead. However, it's probably unlikely that he did kill X because there is no evidence to suggest that he would have been involved in doing something like that. Also, I'm pretty sure it was also pretty obvious that Michael Sherrill Boatwright killed him, not Drake. But conspiracy theories aside, let's get into the next bar, which is, I'll probably hold a grudge against you guys till I'm 75. This is most likely in reference to his feuds with Pusha T and Kanye West, which he would probably forget about when he's 75 years old. He'll probably also be retired by then and might not find rapping his passion anymore. I mean, realistically, I might retire in 2034, in which I'll be 40 by then, but at the longest I might retire in 2054, in which I'll be 60, but I might also consider retiring in 2044 when I'm 50, so I don't know. But the only thing I do know is at most I have 31 years left of doing this shit. Then I'm done for good. And at least I have 11 years left. But that's besides the point. Few lines later and we get another diss towards Kanye. You forced a lot of fake love when real ones stood in your face. This is in reference to Kanye forging fake friendships with politicians and fashion houses to progress his career when the real people that could trust were right there all along. The next bar builds off from this. That's why you got deserted by your niggas like pudding and cake. Here he's basically saying that because of these fake friendships ye forged, the real people that were there for him all along left him and turned their back on him. This line also contains the classic Drake homophone where he makes one word sound like another. He mentions pudding and cake after saying he got deserted by his niggas because dessert sounds like dessert. And as you all know, pudding and cake are classified as dessert foods. So there's some clever wordplay there. The next bar after that is, I got you on camera bowing down, but the footage is safe. Drake is now dissing Pusha T once again by saying that he had the inside knowledge to destroy Pusha in the beef they had back in 2018, but he couldn't use that knowledge against him because, ironically, Pusha T had more insider knowledge on him that he used against him instead. He then follows this up with, thank God, another USB to put in the safe. Here we have another double entendre where this could mean that Drake has the footage secured in the safe so that only he could access it. It could also be in reference to the American $1 billion bill in which he collects a bunch of those considering his high financial status. Another bar later and we get a bar about what these beefs have done to Drake. I swear that y'all turned me into the villain. I couldn't escape. Here he's basically saying that because of all these beefs he's been involved in, the people dissing Drake turned him evil and made him show zero remorse for the people criticizing him. This is also in reference to track 22 on CLB called The Remorse, where he says that they turned him bad even when he didn't want to be. And that's basically what these beefs have done to him. They made him show his dark side. The next bar is him boasting that he's still good at what he does and that he feels confident in not losing a single beef. Not saying that I'm the best at what I do. I'm just saying that it's me versus whoever wanna lose. Here he states that if he's going against someone in a beef then he's confident in winning every single time, to where he assumes that the other person will lose in the beef, because he believes that he's that good. The next bar also ties into this with him saying, pick any one of the who's who's. I got .22s for new crews. Basically here he's telling his opponent to pick how he's willing to go out, with .22s being a reference to .22 caliber pistols. He then follows that up with, RIP to the DJ from Houston. We lose screws. This is a direct reference to DJ Screw, who innovated the chopped and screwed scene that we still see in music nowadays. He died on November 16, 2000 after overdosing on lean. He is still remembered to this day for being the best DJ to ever do chopped and screwed. Earlier in the album, we got an interlude named Screw the World, which was a homage to his signature chopped and screwed style. And then he ends the song off by saying that you've probably heard a lot about Drake. And because you all know about Drake by now, that's why I include him in these lists. Overall, Drake shows us that you don't have to name drop in order to diss people. His success will last him a long time in the music industry. He doesn't forget so easily and he can actually rap when he wants to. And overall this song contains the best flows and cadence I have heard from Drake in recent years. Next. It's crazy to think about how rap music has been around for 50 years now. I mean, with all that changed, the genre doesn't even feel the same anymore. Either the very talented rappers that have helped innovate this genre have died, retired, switched to a new genre entirely, or are completely irrelevant in 2023, which leaves not that many rappers left, being that the really good ones are not here anymore. But regardless of all that, rappers do still show their respect to the genre, and this year they specifically did it through Hip Hop 50, a rap series which highlights the successes and achievements of hip hop throughout the years. And what better to do this than the one and only Black Thought, the most well-respected MC in the genre? So he did. Except he did an a cappella, and even then, you could feel every word that he put on this song, and I don't know many other rappers who could do that. So let me just say it now. Give this man a Grammy.
Before our entire lives became computerized, we were back spinning in shell toes and Puma Clydes as we watch some of our stars continue to rise up to Jupiter and Mars. We learn to utilize our credentials and how to maximize the potential to build brands. Laying the proper groundwork's essential to go from Public Enemy to Tribe Called Quest to Jay-Z, Diddy, Pharrell, Drake, or Kanye West, to where our world could be as free as Ron Artest, in a place where no one else has got to sign our checks. We made fortunes out of fame like Run and DMC when we came in the door like Ra and Eric B to make something out of nothing. And it's come to define a legacy more meaningful than just a moment in time.
In this a cappella styled performance, Black Thought perfectly describes the timeline between the start of rap music to where it is now. And you might not have known about this until now, but the genre truly started due to the New York City blackout of 1977, where people were breaking into record stores and getting their hands onto whatever equipment they could find. And then that's when they started recording music. But the world has changed. Now recording music has a different way of recording the song. And many ways actually. Because everything is technology based nowadays. So you basically need to have technology readily available for when these artists walk in and they wanna record. And the popular music of each year has changed as well. But we'll talk about that later from now. So following the New York City blackout of 1977 and people stealing whatever equipment they could get their hands on, Sylvia Robinson assembled the first ever rap group, a standard for rap music back then, and helped record the first rap song ever made. And what she didn't know was that this one thing she did would change the genre forever. There then came the first female rapper ever, named MC Sha-Rock. After her followed many other female rappers by the likes of Lil Kim, Cardi B, Flo Milli, Nicki Minaj, and even Sexy Red. And her debut showed that it doesn't just have to be males dominating the rap scene. Female rappers can find success as well in the rap scene. And this statement kept getting proved again and again and again. It then goes into how all these songs couldn't be kept in the vault and that, eventually, they had to be released, which is what most rappers do with their unreleased songs nowadays. And then it goes into how some rappers would have never existed without the help of other rappers, like how Lil Kim or Nicki Minaj would never exist without Salt and Pepper, or how Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion should thank Queen Latifah, MC Lyte, and El Boogie for making this possible. And you should be thanking the rappers who helped pave this way for you, because who knows, they might have influenced you to rap. Every rapper you know was influenced by someone else to rap. I just know it. There are a few other rappers who I could think of that would not exist if it wasn't for these other rappers. As for a few examples, Travis Scott wouldn't exist without T-Pain. Roddy Ricch wouldn't exist without Speaker Knockers. Lil Uzi Vert wouldn't exist without Wiz Khalifa. Ken Carson wouldn't exist without Playboi Carti, and, for the most recent example, Osama Sun wouldn't exist without Ken Carson. So there you have it. One way or another, one rapper may rely on another rapper to live out their career, and that's completely fine. Black Thought then goes on to say that these rappers are superheroes and that they have helped us greatly. And you can't deny that, because they helped create a new genre entirely. A new genre for our listening pleasure. And if it isn't for that, then what is it for? And this all happened before everything became digital. Back when you relied on a label to notice your talent and sign you. Back when the best option was doing a concert close to where you live. Nowadays it's much harder for rappers to get noticed because the old ways don't work anymore and they have to rely on getting a cosign, which is extremely hard nowadays. But it doesn't stop rappers from trying. And also back then we were wearing the latest new shoes while watching rappers rising up to the next level and going above and beyond with their work. Nowadays it is extremely rare for this to happen, but it still can, and the work can pay off. Just keep trying and something might happen in the future. That's all you can hope for, really. And over time, to even achieve this, we had to master our own skills and put forward our best work to where that could get noticed by a major label or someone of importance. And over time we laid the foundation for future rappers to come, with acts such as Public Enemy to A Tribe Called Quest to Jay-Z to Diddy to Pharrell to Drake and to Kanye West as a few examples. There are more rappers that followed, but we would be here all day if I named them all, so I won't. Just know that a lot more followed since then. He then describes the world as free, meaning you can do whatever your heart desires without needing to sign to a major label. And if you are happy with what you're currently doing and you're unsigned, that's good. You don't necessarily need a deal in order to spread your creative vision. All you need is recording equipment and you're set. It was required for you to sign to a label back then, but times have changed. Most people nowadays think that a label would interfere with their creative process, in which they are not wrong. I mean, that exact thing happened with Lupe Fiasco and his label. But if you want those really high streaming numbers, then most people recommend signing to labels. You don't have to though. Just some advice. Once you do get to that level of fame though, whether you're signed or not, you can really profit off of that like Run DMC did. And once you're able to profit off your success, you can take your career to anywhere you want it to go. And this, also, would not be possible without the first rap collab album ever made, which is Paid in Full by Rakim and Eric B. And without this album you would have never gotten other collab albums like Jay-Z and Kanye on Watch the Throne, Drake and Future on What a Time to Be Alive, Travis Scott and Quavo on Huncho Jack Huncho, and 2 Chainz and Lil Wayne on Welcome to Collegrove. It just proves how important that one collab album was. There is proof that you can make a career from having nothing, as you're able to afford more things as you go along. And you can go from being homeless to being a very successful rapper. It has happened before and it could very well happen again. And the longer your career goes on for, the more you can define your own legacy and what it means for rap. And it can be revealed that we are all brilliant rappers with smart minds making the right decisions most of the time. And rappers like us can also live by the way of God, and we have been for a very long time. We know we can trust him. I feel like he's the only one you can trust nowadays. But trust aside, you can be whoever you want to be in the rap scene. You'll be accepted no matter what. It doesn't matter if you're white, black, Asian, Hispanic or mixed for that matter. You can make music that feels right to you no matter the circumstances. It isn't back in the days where those groups entering rap music were criticized anymore. It doesn't matter where you come from. All that matters is that you remember who you're supposed to be. Ever since we conquered Hollywood, we have broken down the racial barrier that separates rappers by groups. We can now be equal in the same music space as each other without having to worry about what others think. Times have changed now. Payphone isn't around anymore and Twitter is the place to go for everything. You can be strong. You should keep going. You are welcome in whatever area you make music in. You made it. You should feel proud. You should celebrate every accomplishment like your last. You can prove them wrong. You got your money right. You got your mind right. Do it for whatever platform you choose. And most of all, make your voice heard and do what makes you proud. Because with rap music, you can take your career anywhere. And that's love letter to you. Overall, it's a great reflecting point of where we are now in rap compared to where we were back then. And it also helps us realize how far we've made it and that we should never give up when the goal's in sight. Next. In 2019, Billy Woods and Kenny Segal came together to make the most unique sounding album of the year in the form of Hiding Places. It was definitely a nice breath of fresh air from the redundant trap music that released that year. And I also liked how deep the lyricism got at times. Like there was not a single risk that this album wasn't willing to take. Then, for a few years, I have never heard of this duo again. That is, of course, until someone told me that they made a better album than Hiding Places this time around. And holy shit, were they right.
Common sense says my ancestors was the worst of the men. First sign of trouble, motherfuckers.
Now it's important to note the production as something that makes this album way better. See, the beats are more well suited for Billy as ever, and with the features he brings across these tracks, it really brings out the best of them. And for this track that's especially so. I mean goddamn. The beat's amazing and I could see Danny Brown sliding on this perfectly. And indeed he did. He gave one of the best features he ever has with some of the best lyricism he ever has. And I have yet to find a bad feature from this guy because I would like to think that such thing doesn't exist. As for Billy's verse, he has great lyricism on his end. Overall, two of the best lyricists in rap right now came together and made the banger we expected them to. And all of this is thanks to Kenny, who even set up the great idea in the first place. Next. When you turn 40 years old, it's really that time where you start reflecting on your overall career, like how well it went and what you could change. And with Danny Brown's newest album being named Quaranta, which is Latin for 40, he does this self-reflecting a lot. And there's a bit of everything when it comes to this album. He talks about how his drug addiction almost got the best of him. He talks about how he regrets becoming a musician. He talks about him checking into rehab, and he also touches on what's next for him. Or if that wasn't clear enough, what his goals will be when he retires the rap genre. And this album gets surprisingly deep and depressing sometimes, making this his most personal album to date. And while there aren't as many features as people would have liked, the ones they went with were perfect here. Especially Mike, who grew on me a lot this year. And considering I've already liked the work I've heard from him this year, I knew that I would love this song.
I used to sell a bit, but I don't fuck around no more.
Celibate is the 8th track from the Detroit rapper's 6th studio album. And I think it's important to explain what the word celibate means so that you get a better understanding of the inner genius this song is. So being celibate is abstaining from sexual activities, hence the moaning samples heard in the song. And he twists the word a bit to fit different variations of it in the chorus, with him saying that he used to sell drugs and got arrested for it. This might be in reference to his album Atrocity Exhibition, where he goes deep into his drug addiction. Either this or XXX, an album of his that also details his drug addiction. Either way, he is a changed person now and doesn't have to resort to those methods to make money. And through the verses he continues on the themes of being celibate by talking about how all types of women used to be attracted to him and how if he knew who they were then he would get them to do tasks for him. He also talks about the process of him selling drugs, with him using Macklemore's name to explain how white the powder is. He then touches on wanting to break free of being a prisoner. And then after that comes Mike's verse with some of the best lyricism I've ever heard from him. He also talks about bettering his life after a history of selling drugs and how at the lowest points of his life, he still found a way to turn them around. He also talks about not liking the person he used to be, which I totally get that. I mean, I may have made some decisions that weren't for the best, but hey, I'm here now and I'm doing better. So you don't even have to worry. Overall, this is a great song that does a lot of self-reflecting on Danny's past and how he was able to overcome this lifestyle and become the person he truly wanted to be. And this could be your chance to turn your life around. So get out there and do it. You can trust me on this. Next. Okay, I will admit it. I've been getting into Detroit rap music a lot lately, which can be reflected by some of my listening habits this year. I mean, hell, one of the first reviews I've even done this year is for a Babytron album, and I think that really plays into him being on this list as well. But first let me run you by my favorite Detroit rappers. At the number 1 spot is the GOAT J Dilla. When it comes to vocal chops, nobody could do it quite like him. Plus the fact that his production is so clean and nice sounding. I liked his music a lot actually. Number 2 spot goes to Danny Brown. No question about it. He's been putting out quality music for a long time, following XXX, which is peak Danny in my opinion. His lyricism is sharp and so is his wordplay. And his delivery is great as well. Both his high energy delivery and his normal delivery, which started to get utilized more when it came to his most recent music. And the thing I like about Danny is that he isn't afraid to get versatile at times, tackling a lot of different sounds. And in my opinion, that's what makes him stand out from the rest of the Detroit rappers I have heard. Number 3 is Tee Grizzley. His storytelling might give Kendrick Lamar a run for his money. I'm not even kidding. Listen to all 6 of the Robbery songs and you'll start to see my point. Now where does Babytron rank? Number 4 with Eminem and Babyface Ray being right behind him. Most times he is known for catchy beats that make you wanna get jiggy along with rhyme schemes that no other rapper could even imagine of putting on a song. And that's what makes him so special. Now prepare to be amazed by his lyricism once again as you play you this snippet.
You the type to turn the big meat around the hoe. Spent 6 weeks touring, traveled around the globe. Trying to face a whole pound.
Not gonna lie. Those bars were cold. But those aren't the only fire bars in this song. Let me run you by a few more. Now before we get into the few other bars that I thought were fire, let me explain what the mitten is. The song title, Murder Mitten, is in reference to his Detroit title, which could have very well been inspired by my 5th favorite Detroit rapper who I just talked about not that long ago. So now that we explained that, let's get into the bars themselves. It hit different when you go and do your homework. This is facts though. When you go and do your research about someone, it helps you understand their music better. And that's the case for Babytron as well. I mean, you really gotta know about his background to enjoy this music. And if you don't know much about it, then you won't understand it at all. Just saying. It helps to get outsider knowledge. Here's another bar I found. Cameras walk me to the stage like I'm Goldberg. Because Babytron is this famous, camera people follow him everywhere he goes. And this is similar to how security guards accompany the wrestler Bill Goldberg when he does his entrance theme. For those who don't know what an entrance theme is, it's basically you entering the arena with music playing. And it's meant to build up hype for that wrestler so that people cheer them on. I have always found these entrance themes really cool and I would like to get my own one day. But that is beside the point. Next bar is, shooter pop out with a Lil Pump like he smoke perk. In the way that it's phrased here, it's making it look like the shooter and his pistol are a duo. And who else is an iconic duo that people still remember to this day? Well, that's none other than Lil Pump and Smokeperk. Despite them falling off in relevancy and quality wise, they still enjoy making music together. And while they are not the most iconic duo out there, they are still a pretty recognizable duo nevertheless. Then we have the bar "They'll see you get it out the mud, still throw dirt." Making it out the mud is another term for making it out the struggle, meaning that you're accomplished now. And usually when you get up out the mud, you come out dirty. That won't change the fact that they'll throw dirt at you. Another term for throwing shade towards you. So basically being said, they'll still hate you even though you're up. Then there's the bar "when it's time. Make sure I'm lying in a rose gold hearse." Because he considers himself better than all these other people, he wants to go out like a legend. Hence why he wants to lie in a golden hearse rather than a black one. A hearse is a car they use to carry you out at your funeral. Then this next bar is really fire. Plenty fish up in the sea. I told a hoe go surf. Babytron is basically saying that there's a lot of options out there. And because he doesn't want this bitch, he's telling her to go find someone else when he says for her to dive into the water and find a fish in that water. And if she ain't worth your time, then why are you still with her? That's exactly the point. You don't need to be with her. Anyways, this next bar isn't really a standout one, but it's still pretty cool. Blood money, but we thumbing through some blue checks. For those who don't know, the color red is associated with the 9 Trey Bloods, and blood money refers to the money they were able to get by themselves. However, the color blue is associated with the Crips. So despite them being from a gang associated with the red color, they are counting money that's in a blue color. Then the last bar I wanna talk about is, unless it fit around your head, go buy a new vest. Because Babytron can perform a perfect headshot every time. He doesn't need a bulletproof vest. The ops might need them though. But those are all the bars I was willing to break down for you guys. Overall, catchy beat, flows that go stupid hard, and lyricism that is dope as hell. Next. When it usually comes to who the best rappers are in the current rap scene, 3 rappers always come to people's minds, hence them being named the Big 3. These 3 rappers serve high importance to rap itself, and without them, who knows what the genre would be like. The Big 3, in their original order, are Drake, J. Cole and Kendrick Lamar. These are the 3 rappers that most people would call the best of the modern rap scene. But I think track 6 on For All the Dogs really proved who's actually the GOAT out of these 3. And it's the answer that you would least suspect.
Niggas so thirsty to put me in beef. Dissecting my words and start looking too deep. I look at the tweets and start.
On this song, Drake and Jermaine end the debate of who's the best rapper once and for all, with each proving why it's them. And with this high energy production, it does its job well. Its job of getting you hyped for J. Cole's performance as he delivers the cleanest bars he ever has on a song, talking about how he deserves the recognition that he gets. And there are definitely some standout bars here. For example, just know if I diss you, I'd make sure you know that I hit you like I'm on your caller ID. The one that they call when they shit ain't connecting no more. Feel like I got a job at it. The Spider Man meme is me looking at Drake and hate how the game got away from the bars. Man, this shit like a prison escape. This is all the proof we need to confirm that J. Cole is the undisputed GOAT of the three. And he proved it once and for all. But when Drake literally got carried by J. Cole, he had to switch the beat up on him. The second half is where Drake does this flex rap thing where he boasts his status and saying that he's close to beating Michael Jackson out for how many #1 hit songs he has, which was inevitable with Drake's status. It was gonna happen eventually. And with that, the debate has ended. Overall, this song's a great showcase of lyricism and chemistry that both of the artists have together. Next. In 2023, when Yachty's shelf life was not as good as it used to be, the Georgia rapper knew he had to do something to revive his career, and fast. As proven time and time again, people didn't care for Yachty trying to actually rap. What they wanted was something actually enjoyable. And when it came to his ratings up to this point, we haven't really gotten anything enjoyable in that time span. And we were worried that quality-wise, Yachty was gonna fall off. However, he did the impossible and took the artistic risk. And damn did it pay off. When you listen to the songs on this album, not only is it clear that this isn't a lazy attempt at the alternative rock genre, it's also clear that Yachty did his homework on Pink Floyd, mastering every element that made their music so good. The first thing you'll be able to notice here is that the instrumentation is fantastic. Hands down the best composed song of the year. And the thing as well is that he actually got a live band to perform this instrumental, meaning it's authentic to the genre itself. And Yachty here gives this all he's got, and it makes it sound psychedelic and ambitious. And that's not even the best part. The build-ups work like a charm, with this explosive outro from Diana Gordon having so much energy put into it where you literally can't go wrong. From start to finish, it is an amazing listen. And overall, it is the second best song of 2023 and the best album opener of the year. Next. Loss is a very difficult thing to deal with, and it hits us in ways that we would never expect. In a way, it causes us to go through the 5 different stages of grief. We first go into denial, where we cannot believe that they're gone. We then go into anger, where we're mad at the fact that they're gone. We then go into bargaining, which is our initial reaction to this loss and us trying to regain control of the situation. We then go into depression, where the loss has saddened us. And finally, we accept that they are no longer with us and move forward with our lives. And those stages of grief are heavily reflected upon when it comes to the 11th studio album from Foo Fighters. On this album, Dave Grohl, the lead singer of the band, expresses his grief towards the loss of Taylor Hawkins, the band's drummer. He passed away in 2022, but his death still has a lingering effect on the band to this day. And knowing this, the band went on to make the most heartfelt tribute of all time. And you could tell they put their all into this. Rescued is the opening track to But Here We Are, the 11th studio album from Foo Fighters. The song talks about how the members of Foo Fighters couldn't believe that Taylor Hawkins passed away at first, with them stating that it happened too fast to where it was hard for them to process it. And that's mostly the case for experiencing loss. At first you can't believe it, but then you start to accept the fact that they are no longer with you. It does take some time for you to adjust to life without this person though. And I bet it took a lot of time for the members to come to terms with this. So much so that each member was thinking the same thing as another. What this really means for them. And they all felt like doing the same thing as well because of these events. They are currently in a freeze response, as shown by these lyrics, where they have the inability to think straight and they question their own lives and what has become of them. At this point, you start to wonder if the death was your own fault. Even if you know it isn't, you can't help but question it. And you continue to until you learn the truth. That's what eventually happens, but it might take a while for you to come around to it. The chorus is basically Grohl saying that he needs someone to bring joy into his life again because all this time, he has felt nothing but sorrow. And this is further expressed in the second verse where it's basically made clear that Taylor's death still lingers over the members. And knowing that he died of heart disease, there was no controlling this. There was no way for them to stop his passing. They just had to watch it happen. And the saddest part is that knowing that you couldn't have done anything to help leaves you feeling useless. Kind of like a feeling that you let this happen and that it's all your fault. I get that. But what you do need to understand is that eventually, you're gonna have to move on and pave the road for what's to come instead of focusing on the past. At most, you wanna put this behind you, right? So overall, this song's a really powerful tribute to Taylor Hawkins and it might be the best thing the band has ever made. Next. Denzel Curry has improved a lot since he first stepped onto the scene. He used to blend in with the other rappers blowing up around the same time as him, but now he has established a unique sound that he goes with for every different album he does. And that has really benefited Denzel. Knowing that each song is gonna sound stylistically different just makes me appreciate it even more. And with the recent singles he's been putting out, I can gladly say that he had a strong output this year. But there was one single that stood out from the rest and it instantly had me engaged.
I don't trust nobody because some want me to suffer. Even Jesus called a nigga out on.
Despite the title of the song being the incorrectly spelled version of the word scared, I had a lot of fun with this one. Right off the bat, the song starts off with this energetic beat that has this energy to it. This bass heavy beat that Denzel Curry can really go off on. And he does. He starts the song off by talking about his grudge towards other with him also saying that Jesus didn't trust someone on his Last Supper, which is not only true but it makes for a pretty fire bar. He continues the rest of the verse by spitting these insane bars on this beat that just flow together perfectly. Then Kenny Mason, someone who became one of my favorite artists over time, comes in with a fire feature. He got bars as well. Both him and Denzel barred the fuck up for this one. Overall, it's a great and enjoyable listen. Next. After 5 years of waiting and anticipation, Travis Scott finally dropped Utopia in 2023 and the wait paid off. Within the album, he did something he's always best with, world building with the sound structure of this album. It was clear that the sound of this album would be darker and more experimental to show a dystopian world. And that is reflected perfectly on this album. Well, except for one song. But let me highlight one song in particular from this album that I think might be the best thing Travis has released so far.
Lost on islands driven in boat cars. Just bring your girl, feel like she both eyes.
This song calls back to the Owl Pharaoh sound with Travis Scott's lyrical prowess throughout his verse. And this beat definitely fits his lyrical capabilities here as it's a smooth instrumental produced by The Alchemist. And he has worked with tons of lyrical rappers before, so this is perfect for him. And you know how when the song was first previewed, Westside Gunn was on the same beat as Travis Scott? Not anymore. There is a beat switch between his and Scott's part. Despite that though, he comes with a fire verse followed up by Travis as they close the song out perfectly. And overall, it's a lyrical masterpiece. Songs like these make me wish that we heard Travis get lyrical more often. Maybe we could get more of that on the next album. But regardless of that, it's definitely one of my favorites off the album. Next. Earlier I stated that the album was very experimental. And while that is true, there are still a handful of bangers on this album. Guaranteed. They are not the focus on the album. But it is nice to hear them. But there is one song that always gets me hyped whenever I listen to the album. Yeah, you know the one. Fane is the 8th track off of Utopia and it's definitely the one that's getting most people hyped when it plays at a concert. It has this rage sound going for it that matches Travis Scott's style well. It's not one of those situations that we had with Crazy Train by Trippie Redd where he didn't fit on it at all. No. He fits all right and gives us his most high energy performance ever. And I didn't know this until a few days after the album released, but apparently Travis Scott does the chorus for Fane, not Playboi Carti. Speaking of Carti, Here he comes through with a different flow than we're used to hearing from him. It's a low voice delivery that can often be associated with either Future or Lil Yachty, but his performance works. It's infectious. It gets you going. Hell, I know almost every lyric to his verses. I'm not even lying. And Sheck Wes would appear on here as well, but unfortunately, his verse couldn't get cleared in time. But still, it's a fun and enjoyable song that takes a new spin on the genre Carti created in an interesting way, adding the drums from Good Morning into the mix to keep things interesting. And overall, it's the most memorable song off of this album for its energy alone. Next. And to think that people thought this genre was dying. Boy, were they wrong. Yeah, I've enjoyed R&B music for quite a while. And while R&B in the 2020s has been pretty hit or miss, there still are some pretty quality R&B releases that end up dropping every now and then. One of those was Larger Than Life by Brent Faiyaz. Now if you know me, you know that I love Brent Faiyaz. He has it all. Infectious melodies, superb beat selection, only the finest feature selection. He also knows how to make one hell of a good album cover. All of these qualities line up to him being a good R&B artist. And when I saw that one of my favorite artists was collaborating with another one of my favorite artists, I knew they were gonna make something special. Yes, you heard it here first. A$AP Rocky is one of my favorite artists, and that is solely off of his discography. So to think that he would collab with Brent Faiyaz, another one of my favorite artists, I thought it was a match in heaven. The beautiful beat that sounds really nice. Brent's singing, Rocky's flow and New York LA's singing as well. All are components for making this song as good as it deserves to be. See, I always knew that Brent was capable of making a masterpiece. And he did. Wasteland had some pretty good songs as well, but he really topped himself this time around. He made an album true to himself. Not only that, but he put his all into it as well. And overall, this song is really amazing. The rest of the album has some nice sounding songs as well. You should definitely check them out. Next. Okay, to be honest, this is the first time I have ever had to say this about a Westside Gunn album. And I was never expecting to say this, but here we go. I don't really care for And Then You Pray For Me. It's not a terrible album. It's just that there's a lot of filler on this project. That was a guarantee with the 21 tracks on here. Plus some of the features that were just not hitting. For God's sake, why did Giggs have to be on here? Despite all its glaring issues, I still found some parts of the album pretty enjoyable. Especially the lyrical tracks I'm used to hearing from Westside Gunn. I could have chosen any of them, to be honest. Hell, Kitchen Lights could have been on here. But I went with one that featured another Griselda member I liked. And needless to say, this song did more than what most of the album could do.
Aiming fire at your favorite bum ass niggas is fugazi. I spitting all.
Now this is incredible. The lyrical skills from both artists shine through here, with Rome Streetz getting the first verse as his energy perfectly matches the intense boom bap beat laid out by Mr. Conductor We Have a Problem himself. Here he's talking that shit and saying that he's better than your favorite artist. And you know what? Let's prove that right now. Leave your favorite artist down in the comments right now and I'll tell you if Rome Streetz is better than them or not. Let's not make it too chaotic though. I will only respond with saying that they're better than them if I truly believe it. If I don't, then I'll just straight up say it. But that should keep the comment section busy for a while. And now it's time for the man of the hour himself. Give it up for Westside Gunn. He has a verse full of references to drugs which you could usually expect from Westside here. Plus he comes through with some cold lyricism and a sharp flow that'll keep you engaged. He comes in with them bars as well, capping the verse off by saying that he had a dream where Sly Green got released from prison and Eastside Flip got a new leg. For those who don't know, Eastside Flip was the guy who was on the 10 cover, and he even made an appearance in the Super Kick Party music video. He is disabled, so that's why he dreamt about him getting a replacement leg. And one last thing before we get to the next song. Previously, Sly Green made an appearance on Costas near the very end where a sample of him can be heard. Okay, that's it. Overall, a great song from an album I felt indifferent about. Now let's get to the next song. You are taught many things in life. How to grieve is not one of these. But that shouldn't be an issue. You need to find a way to deal with it by yourself. It's not easy, but it can be done. Virginia Grohl is the lead singer's mother, and she was a teacher most of her life. She passed away and couldn't teach him everything, but mostly everything. I mean, nobody can teach anyone about grief. Not in an easy way. And so, continuing on with the themes of Taylor's passing, Dave does what his mother would have wanted best and counted every moment he had left with Taylor Hawkins. And it's the thought that matters, right?
Soul and spirit moving through.
The Teacher is the 9th track off of But Here We Are, the group's 11th studio album. It is a 10-minute song full of grief towards Taylor Hawkins, as the song starts off with Dave wondering which one of his friends is gonna die next. Knowing that one of your friends is already gone, you start speculating as to other people whose time has come. And you start to worry because you have no idea who will die next, and you pray that it won't be someone you're really close with, because that would just suck. Dave continues these thoughts of being uncertain as to what will happen in the future. You can never be sure. He describes the time passing in the first verse, implying that change will occur. And, as we all know, change is inevitable. It is hard to come to terms with it because you're so used to things being a certain way. And now that things aren't the same way anymore, it's hard to get adjusted to the changes. Still, we learn how to deal with them over time. It's not an easy process though, as change can come out of nowhere. You can't control what happens. What you can control though is being ready for change. Even though the change will be difficult, expecting it is the best thing you can do. And you can't stop whatever's gonna happen. You're not in control of what goes on. You can, however, control your actions so that the best outcomes happen. By doing this, you can make the situation better, but you can never control other people's actions. They might do things that you don't want them to do, and they are in control of their own actions. You can convince them that what they are doing is wrong. That's the only thing you can do though. And a lot of changes are set to happen in the future. It might be entirely different from the world you used to know. Finding your balance in this world is highly important. No matter what. Dave reflects on the future here by asking what the plans will be for tomorrow. Like what's gonna happen and what we're gonna do. He also asks where he will end up. These are questions that all cycle through our head. What am I gonna do today? Where will I end up? Will I still be able to afford the things I had in the past? And what changes will occur? You eventually find out the answers to all these questions, but they are never given to you directly. Hence that is why you have to find out by asking someone else so that you can be prepared. And knowing the answers to these questions can help you get more of an understanding of the future. This all has to deal with time, a constant that controls these factors. Time doesn't spare anyone. We don't all have that much time left. It is important though that you make do with the time you have left, because you wanna utilize every hour, second and minute to its fullest. By doing what you feel should be done. Because if you aren't using every hour, second and minute of your time to the fullest, what are you doing with that time? When a traumatic event like someone's passing happens, the past will separate from the present, with that event being tied to the present. And you could always look back on the past and what you could have done differently. But if you don't pay enough attention to what's currently going on, your future might be something that you don't want it to be. So make the best decisions in order to better your future. Things in life are destined to happen. You don't choose for these things to happen though, but dealing with them is the best thing you can do. Because no matter what gets thrown your way, being able to cope is what works. Now I do have to state this here. Dave believes in the afterlife. And the concept is simple, really. When one dies, their spirit passes through to another place where it'll be safe. And you might not be able to see this in real time, but you can sense that it'll happen. And the best thing to do is to wish the best for them. Because, if anything, you want them to go to the right place. You want them to go to heaven. And you could tell if the actions they did if they were alive were good actions. That plays a huge role in where you'll end up in the afterlife. You'll obviously know by watching their movements when they're still alive. But sometimes you don't get to see what they do. And that's just how it is. And then it's back to what the future holds. What does it have in store? And then it's back to the thought of who they are gonna take next. Then there's the cycle of life and how those events play out. You have no control over this though, and you just have to let this happen. But you still have to be hopeful during these dark and depressing times. and the future plays out these events. Events that you have no control over. You don't know who's gonna die next. You can never really tell. It then goes into how Dave's mother taught him so much. She told him how to breathe but never told him how to say goodbye. She told him how to live his life but never what to do when someone loses their life. That, alone, is all the knowledge you need going into the world. With these things, you can handle the situation being played out despite you not being able to control the situation itself. And you can keep calm despite these things happening as well. It's all about self-balance. And as each moment happens, it becomes a lesson for the future, one you can take into account. And with these lessons, it can help you better make decisions in the years to come. Then, as the song begins to close out, Dave makes do with the air left and making every last breath count before they're gone. And the final part is Dave finally accepting that they're gone and giving them the final send-off they deserve. Overall, you're taught to do so many things. So put them to good use in situations like these so that you can get the best outcome. Next. Oh yeah, here's another one of those lyrical tracks that I liked from the album.
And so it goes, don't you tell me how your bro did so and so and so to such and such. Grew up with.
On this dark and haunting beat, Westside Gunn takes us on a trip to New York where he tells us about the struggles and triumphs of growing up in that area. With his storytelling that he proceeds to do on this track, he pulls out a paintbrush so that he can paint the picture for you. A visualization of Buffalo, New York if you will. It's a crime-ridden city where you have to come up out of nothing to get noticed by others. And when most can't make their name known by making music, they resort to selling and distributing drugs. If done the wrong way, it can get your entire gang pinned. Even worse, it could get you thrown in jail as well. But you gotta learn how to thrive in the city and how to make a killing. That isn't just in the sense of how to make a successful career, no. It's also in the sense of shooting and killing people. Doing tasks for simple checks. All it is really is being on your toes and looking out for danger. He also does wordplay here that references Young Boy Never Broke Again and his 2020 album Top, so that's cool. Then, despite JID and Westside Gunn being from different backgrounds, he shares what it's like living in Atlanta. Like Westside Gunn city, is it crime-ridden as well, and also like his city, you also have to depend on selling drugs to make a name for yourself. That is if it isn't for the music. There's a lot of violence going on and there's no peace in the streets. People are out against each other and they don't consider the better of someone else. They just want them dead. And JID also states here that he usually had to take the MARTA bus because he has no access to any other transportation. And may JID remind you that he's also from the same city where Tupac shot 2 police officers. He also mentions Earth Gang here by referencing Olufan, as he states that he gave you a choice between the blue pill and the red pill and he's telling you to choose both. He mentions how he would take both pills on track 4 of the Never story. This is also similar to how Morpheus told Neo that he had 2 options. In both of his hands were colored pills, one red and one blue. The red one will reveal to him the truth about the Matrix. The blue one will send him back to reality. I believe Neo chose the red one. He also references the Atlanta Hawks and classic fairy tales alluding to drugs, with Snow White being pure powdered cocaine and with Cinderella being flunitrazepam, which was commonly used as a date grape drug. Can't say the actual word because YouTube finna strike me down with lightning like Zeus does to others who don't agree with him. Anyways, he continues on with bars about his rugged lifestyle and what an honor it is to get both Westside Gunn and JID on the same song. Conway then has the final verse as he talks about his lifestyle as well. So you learned quite a lot about New York and Atlanta today, haven't you? Overall, this song complements all 3 of their lifestyles well and tells them in a way that gets you engaged in their lifestyle. Before we get to the next song though, I have 2 things to say. 1. The song ends with a tap dancing sample. Kind of random but okay. 2. We need Westside Gunn to drop Michelle record soon. We're waiting on it. Okay, that's it. Let's carry on with the next song. So I'm pretty sure you all know that Drake ended up dropping the Scary Hours 3 EP, which got attached to For All the Dogs somehow. And most of y'all have seen the review, right? If you haven't, bro, it's only 12 minutes and 32 seconds. Go watch it. After this video though, don't click off cause I need the views. But anyways, I talked about the last song on that EP called You Broke My Heart. And honestly, out of any song I could have picked from this EP, I think I made the right decision when it came to which one would end up on the best list.
Bunch of feelings I just couldn't shake. Disrespect that I just shouldn't take. You just couldn't see the good in.
As you may recall from that review I did, I talked about how hype the song was. And that's mostly due to the production from FNZ and Vinyls, two producers who worked with Drake before and have made hype beats for others before. FNZ is responsible for both Rich Flex and First Person Shooter, while Vinyls is responsible for Right Hand. And given that they are working together again, this gives Drake a chance to make the banger he always wanted to. And he did. Not only is his rapping good here, but his singing is as well, which elevates this track as a whole. That can also be paired with the bars he delivers here, as they match the energy he's trying to provide. And even though Smiley makes an appearance on this song, it still is the most memorable song off the EP, and overall, it is a great way to close out the Scary Hours series. Next. A lot of people have gotten arrested in 2023 and Babytron is no exception. Now you're probably wondering, what did he get arrested for? Well, he got arrested for possession of controlled substances, although that's a surprise to nobody considering his lifestyle. He carries drugs with him wherever he goes and he had no intentions of stopping. But with this mugshot, the Detroit rapper knew that he had a lot of potential with this. And so when he released, he dropped this gem to remind people of who he still is.
They caught me out in Nebraska with a controlled substance. Innocent till I'm proven guilty, I don't know nothing.
On his first day out song, Babytron states that they caught him out in Nebraska with controlled substances, although the more common word would be drugs. Anyways, he got arrested on the 8th of February, 2023 during his Bin Reaper tour, where he was set to perform at Milwaukee next. He was shortly let go not too long afterwards, and he dropped this EP when he was released. They also said he was speeding, probably because he wanted to get to the next tour location. But a few lines later he stated that it didn't affect him and went on tour again a few days later. Before that though, he did state that he didn't know anything about the situation and that he wanted to get back on tour. Now when he did get arrested, his mugshot went viral. And not only that, but people were starting to worry about him being in jail. Babytron just straight up tells them to worry about their rent instead. We then get a really fire bar after those ones. Tried to be heroic. Now he Tony Stark in Endgame. Okay, I can't believe I have to say this, but this next part is gonna contain spoilers for Avengers Endgame. If you have not seen the movie yet, which I don't know how you haven't watched it at this point, but click off the video, watch the movie and then open the video back up once you watched it. Okay, this is your only warning. Turn back now. Okay, now with that out of the way, let's properly explain this bar. So in Avengers Endgame, Tony Stark makes a sacrifice in the attempt to defeat Thanos once and for all. That basically means that he kills himself and that a funeral is held for him with all of the Avengers showing up. Some people are deeply upset by Stark's passing while others are thinking about how this will change the future. But anyways, to compare that to what Babytron is stating here, someone that Babytron knew tried to show that he was tough but he got killed instead, in the same way that Tony killed himself. Phew. Okay, now you can click back on the video. The spoilers are over and done with, I promise. Now let's move on from that. During this whole case of Babytron getting arrested, he advised that he'll let his lawyer do the talking for him. Because why would he need to when all the lawyer can do is prove him as innocent? That's all you need really. Then there's another bar about him and the police. Then we get another fire bar. Triceps in my glasses. You would think it's roids I'm off. For those who don't know, the brand that made Babytron's glasses are named Buffs. And him mentioning triceps is in reference to how having muscles makes you look buff. These muscles can be achieved by either working out or using steroids. Because of the financial and high status he has, it can be assumed that these things are boosted in the same way one's image is when they start taking steroids. The next bar is in reference to his real name, which is James Edward Johnson VI. He references how it sounds like the name of one of the founding fathers, most similarly to Thomas Jefferson. He then states that his pockets are full of them, meaning that his pockets are full of money and that the faces of the founding fathers are on that money. That's one way to respond to your real name being revealed. Then the next bar references Kid Cudi and his album Passion. Pain and Demon Slayin' when he says my cuddy in the kitchen with some chickens, gnawing and cooking them. Cuddy is slang for close friend or, in this case, homie. And track 15 off of Passion, Pain and Demon Slayin' is named Kitchen, which was an album made by Kid Cudi. Nice little reference to him here. Bit of an unrelated question here, but how hyped are you for his new album Insano, set to drop on the 12th of January? Me personally, I am more hyped for Benny's album than his because I lost hype a long time ago, but some people might still be interested in it. I'm not though. Anyways, he then talks about beating his ops with a belt, similar to how my parents would beat me if they found out that I used my allowance money to invite strippers to my birthday party. I was 18. So what? He also talks about how if you stare at his chain too long then you'll turn into stone in the same way that looking at the snakes on Medusa's head turns you into stone. He implies that they're so shiny that they'll have that effect on you. He then ends the song by saying that he's out of prison now and that he's not afraid to go back to jail and take a second mugshot. Because the first one went viral, why can't the second one? But what would the second arrest be for? Possession of cocaine, battery, murder, assault, disobeying your curfew of 7 p.m. I don't know what he would be arrested for a second time. But all I know is that like the last time he got arrested, it'll be legendary. Overall, Babytron beat the odds and he's back out on the streets. Thank God. Next. So the general consensus for Mansion Music is that the album is just not good. And I can definitely see that given the stacked features and length of the project. But you do have to realize that not all of the songs are bad, right? There are actually a couple that are enjoyable. For example,
Going dumb, going crazy, going dumb,
Trippie Redd and Future. Who knew this was the duo we needed to make a fire song? Not too surprising though. Future has given us a lot of bangers before, and this one is no exception. With its high energy beat and high energy performances, this song has it all. The song also has fire back-to-back bars from both Trippie and Future talking about their lifestyles, with Future saying that he would be rich regardless of whether he was a rapper or not. And that is very true. Let me explain why. Because of the money Future has gained over the years, he would still be pretty wealthy. And that's why. Overall, a really good song on a really bad album. Next. So before we get into the next song, let me tell you about a project named Colligrove. Now Colligrove is a project that was released by 2 Chainz on the 4th of March, 2016. And it was pretty obvious that Colligrove was supposed to be a collaboration album with Lil Wayne. However, because of his shitty label Def Jam Recordings at the time, who has now signed artists such as Benny the Butcher and Odumodu Black, it couldn't be a collaborative project. And that's why he's featured 8 times on this album. Crazy, huh? That happened 7 years ago. Now, in the year 2023, they link back up to actually give us the collaborative project they have always been meaning to give us. And while the album did not live up to everyone's expectations, including Fantano's, in which he gave the shit a 3, there is one song in particular that always stands out when it comes to the track list. And for good reason as well.
The closet came with garage doors. The go-yard is on all fours. I do the shit.
For this song, an almighty trio is formed. 2 Chainz, Lil Wayne and Benny the Butcher. And with this trio, you already know they're gonna make a great song together. And matter of fact, they did. On the first verse, 2 Chainz talks about his lifestyle and how he prefers to keep his lawn cut. He also references the second track on his Based on a True Story album he released back in 2013 and ends his verse off by saying that he doesn't smoke any cigarettes but he'll shoot a cig saw a gun. I thought that bar was fire. Then Wayne's second verse talks about his lifestyle as well. He brings a lot more standout bars with his performance though, with bars like I got the spikes on the guxy, look like Bart to M, and what's a young man without a check? Just a jump man. Fuck that. Jordan meme. To explain those 2 bars right there, Bart has spikes on his head, so it might look like Bart to some because of the spikes on it. As for the other bar, this can actually have multiple meanings. Some people may have to turn to crime as a way to survive, and Jumpman is in reference to the person that may try to rob you of your personal belongings. This could either be in reference to that one Jordan meme where he's like stop it, get some help, or the meme where Jordan's crying because Wayne can't believe that someone would commit that type of thievery. This is also in reference to Jumpman shoes not having the Nike check on them compared to the Nike Air shoes. So the crying Jordan meme might be in reference to the fact that they got Jumpman shoes and not Nike Airs. Wayne also previously stated that he would like to put some Comme des Garçons on the Nike shoes a few bars ago. But it doesn't end there. He uses a literary device called a functional shift, referred to some as a conversion, where he changes a word's grammatical function in a sentence. He does this when he says I'ma get some bling, let it bling like some oil sheen. See if you can spot it. The last bar I wanna talk about in Wayne's verse is this one. Feelin' like a boxer stepping out of the ring. You swing, you miss in. Wayne is basically saying here that he thinks he's untouchable and that anyone who tries to beef with him is losing. And now, we move on to Benny's verse. He has the best lyricism here, obviously. He talks about his come up with lyrics like spent half of my 20s in prison and aged gracefully and I put my fork down. Now every major want me to sign. Because of his raw talent, labels are starting to take note of this and are offering him deals. However, he is signed to Def Jam and that is probably not gonna change anytime soon. He continues with these general themes, of course, as he talks about how he regretted becoming famous. But he doesn't just talk about that. He talks about Paris fashion, which was popularized by Westside Gunn, and spending money on his girl. Not calling her a bitch cause I'm trying to be more respectful to women this year. We'll see how that works out. He also talks about how he got into making music in the first place. How great he is as a rapper. How he's the coldest rapper out right now. Which is very true. And how he's always after the money. Overall, all three rappers provided their best lyricism and made a song that people can look back at and say yeah, that was pretty good. One of the only good songs off this album. Next. Let me start this entry off by saying this. Have you done something that you truly regret? Don't lie. Everyone has done something that they regret to this day. And owning up to your mistakes is a part of that. And with the estate sale deluxe edition of Call Me If You Get Lost that Tyler dropped this year, he does exactly that. And it just works. Dare I say that it makes for the best song he has ever released.
Sorry. I'm sorry I don't see you more. I'm sorry that the 4 minutes were...
On this song, Tyler owns up to his mistakes and apologizes for what he did in the past. He starts off by apologizing to his mother for not giving her enough quality time in her life. He then apologizes to the members of Odd Future and how their egos clash, causing them to split up. And they could have still been together if their egos didn't clash. But this is for the best, as it caused each member to evolve their sound. Especially Tyler, who switched up his music entirely. And that is evident as shown by the multiple different eras of his sound as shown in the music video. On the very far left, we get Flower Boy. Next to Flower Boy is Goblin, aka the version of Tyler that's wearing a green ski mask with an upside down cross as well as a red shirt and black shorts. Next to Goblin is Cherry Bomb, aka the version of Tyler that's wearing a pink mask with a blue jacket that has yellow flames on it. Next to Cherry Bomb is Igor, aka the version of Tyler that wears a blonde wig, shades and a pink outfit. Next to Igor is Bastard, aka the version of Tyler that wears a green cap and a blue and red jacket. Next to Bastard is Wolf, aka the version of Tyler that wears a green cap and a blue striped shirt. And then we get to the two people in the front and center. These people are the Call Me If You Get Lost version of Tyler, which is his most recent era, and a shirtless version of Tyler in which it's not clear what era he is yet, but some people theorized that it could be in reference to Welcome to the Disco, his next album, which is still in the works. He broke his record of a 2-year release schedule this year by saying that the estate sale was the only project he would drop in 2023. But with that context given, let's get into the rest of the song. He then apologizes to the girls that he misled with his sexual intentions, in which he abandoned later on. He then apologizes to the guys that he had to hide from the public eye, as well as the girls he had to lie to as well. This is in reference to his sexuality that he expressed on Flower Boy, hence why that era of Tyler is rapping about this. He then talks about this girl he met this year named Rain Judge, in which he told people to stop spreading rumors about it and being weird about the situation. The reason he says this is because she was 20 when Tyler met him. He was 30 at the time this relationship was going on. It then switches over to Goblin era Tyler with his more aggressive delivery. This shows the more aggressive side of him with him saying that everyone has problems and that you're not special. And that just shows how much the Goblin era of Tyler didn't give a single fuck. After that he expresses how he isn't able to feel for others. He then says a line that caused quite a bit of controversy with him saying that he doesn't know their pronouns and telling them to calm down because they just met. He doesn't mean to misgender this person. It's just that people who are part of the LGBTQ community should tell others what their pronouns are so that they don't get confused. This line caused controversy for the stupidest reason. They thought he was bashing the LGBTQ community. Yeah, no. I'm sorry, but that isn't the case. Maybe you should get your facts right before you get your panties in a bunch. Okay. That is then followed him up by reacting to him being called a jerk. This is probably because they assumed that Tyler didn't know them very well and called them a terrible person. They might have also said that they are out of touch with the new reality and what's going on around him. And he might be, but at the same time it's hard to catch up with everything going on considering it happens so quickly. I mean, I can't make a video on everything that happens. That's not how I operate. But I can at least try to fit a few things in one video. He then apologizes to Mother Earth for the amount of carbon that his cars release into the atmosphere, causing pollution. So my response to that is, why not just go electric? I get it. Tyler is used to the typical style of cars he drives and doesn't wanna switch it up too much, but going electric will reduce those emissions. Also, by doing that, you wouldn't have to apologize to Mother Earth. But regardless, he does. He then apologizes to the fans who know him for his old sound for switching his sound entirely. With him saying this, Goblin era Tyler comes back in and admits that he did change while also saying that people don't know him that well. Then back to the other Tyler where he apologizes to his ancestors for not putting up more of a fight. Then back to the Goblin era Tyler that says that he can't save people because he's not Superman. He also apologizes for there not being a lack of passion and talent in his music like back in the old days when he said the most outrageous shit and was still beefing with B.O.B. Yeah. Remember when he had a career? I do too. Before that plane that was his career crash landed into the ground and was never heard of ever again. Last time I remembered anything about his music was the dumb flat earth conspiracy he had in 2016, so it's not like he had anything good going for him then. He also apologizes for being able to back up his statements back then and becoming the successful artists people never expected him to be, with him getting 13 gold plaques, 2 Grammys and launching several brands including a clothing brand and a fragrance brand. And none of this would have been possible if he didn't leave Odd Future. He kinda had to in order to evolve. Just saying. Then the song starts to get more tense towards the end with him saying such statements as fuck the streaming numbers that he gets and fuck the song having a chorus. He then goes on to tell people that if you put him on a stage then he'll show you how it actually should be done, as well as stating that most people didn't expect him to make it past 18. He then makes it very clear that people who tend to throw shots at him don't really leave a lasting effect on his career and that they end their careers the moment they do it. That's because they can't really bring Tyler down considering he made it this far. And then it is revealed that he's actually not sorry for any of these things and that he did them and that he's a changed man now who is capable of making his own decisions. With this, he tells the critics to fuck off. And so, that is the end of another era for Tyler. Overall, we may regret many of the actions we have made in the past, but we learn to change who we are over time to get accepted into the mainstream. And when we change, it's kinda like we stop caring about the past. Because that was the past. We should be focusing on the future now, right? So let's not get too caught up in that. Next.
That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
Gucci buffs on my eyes look like solar panels, leaving bitches on their own like the Oprah.
On the 23rd of February, 2023, Lil Wayne dropped the third best song of the year. And that's no exaggeration. For years, the one goal that Weezy Carter has always wanted to achieve is rapping on a beat with a DMX sample. And luckily he was finally able to do that. And the song is his most lyrically focused song he has dropped in a while. Let's go through these amazing bars. Shake my hand. It felt like you just touched a stove handle. This bar is basically saying that Wayne is the hottest rapper out right now and that his competition is very few and narrow, meaning not many people can compete with him nowadays cause he still comes out on top every time. And clearly Wayne hasn't lost any of his charm since the 2000s. Gucci buffs on my eyes look like solar panels. Here he is saying that the Gucci design on his shades looks similar to that of a solar panel, meaning that his shades are so bright that when you look at them, they have the same blinding effect that solar panels do when you look at them, leaving bitches on their own like the Oprah channel. The Oprah Show is a show that usually runs on the Oprah Winfrey Network. She launched it in 2011. The Oprah Winfrey Network can be abbreviated to OWN. So yeah, he is leaving these females on their own like the Oprah Network. I said females because I wanna respect women more this year. So far it's going well. Can't trust my shadow. That's a fact. I can't get overshadowed. Basically Wayne is saying that he needs to keep pushing forward so that he doesn't get left in the past. Whether this is through him doing features for various different artists or him releasing his own music, he still finds a way to stay relevant. Ain't into these niggas. Just family like the Genovese nigga, the Kennedys nigga, all street niggas ain't in the streets nigga. Here he compares two families of power. The first family is the Genovese family, which is an American-Italian mafia family. And if you've seen The Godfather before, then you know exactly how these types of families move. Smart and strategically. That's similar to how Wayne and his posse moves. And the second family is the Kennedy family, a political family that has been prominent since 1884. Basically he compares these two families to say that he only trusts people inside his inner circle and that anyone outside of that circle he does not trust. He then acknowledges himself as the greatest rapper of all time on the chorus, where he also says that he's the best trap artist and the best dresser as well. Then we get to verse 2. Yes mama, I'ma eat you like Jeff Dahmer. This is in reference to Jeffrey Dahmer, a well-known cannibal who got a Netflix documentary in 2021. I'm on that DMT. I ain't on that DM shit. Basically him saying that he's on drugs and that he's not trying to get into anyone's DMs. Trina get a B. Right now I'm on my M shit. Wayne has had 1 million for a while now and he's trying to achieve getting 1 billion. Hopefully he does soon so that he becomes the richest rapper of all time. I'm just wheezy wee. On my excuse my French shit. Here Wayne uses a homophone to make we sound like the French word oui, which is yes in French. He then says excuse my French as in sorry for switching languages mid-verse. This just proves that Wayne's the best when it comes to his wordplay. Red beam on a Nina. She wore lipstick tonight. Nina is slang for a gun, but it also sounds like a girl's name. Hence why he says that it wore lipstick. And there's a red beam attached to the gun. Just like the type of lipstick a girl would wear. And then we get to the bridge, in which songs rarely have nowadays because they are shortened for TikTok. I miss the old days when songs had bridges. I bet you miss that as well. But here he says that Swizz Beatz is on production. And then he says that bitch go brrrr. It sound like bumblebees. This is in reference to the gun machine he mentioned earlier, where he says that it sounds like a bee buzzing. He then says gun come with a magazine. Long as a limousine. Magazine is slang for the clip in a gun. And Wayne states here that it's as long as a limousine. A long black car that can fit either 6 or 18 people in it. Depends on the limousine size. But it is a pretty wide car and it's mostly driven by celebrities. It's a pretty pricey car as well. One will put you at about $195. So yeah. And then the last bar we'll talk about is you smell that decomp in the morning like some Jimmy Deans. You know how in the morning, you would pop some Jimmy Deans in the microwave and get that morning smell? Yeah. Wayne compares that to the rotting body he has in the basement, saying that you can almost smell it as well as the Jimmy Deans. And that's it. Overall, this is the best lyricism Wayne has had in a while, and I really hope he keeps this type of energy going when it comes to The Carter 6. Whenever that's dropping. Next. Last year was the year that I really came around to Mike's music. I first heard him featured on Earl Sweatshirt Sentry and wasn't sure what to think of his feature at first. I mean, the beat was good and Earl did his thing, but, like, wasn't Mike offbeat on his performance? That's what it felt like at first. At first, I didn't get it. But then I gave it a re-listen and it all started clicking from there.
Sing through the axe, chop another piece off the branch, memories careen off the past.
So before people even knew this album existed, there were rumors of it floating around on the internet with people saying that an Earl Sweatshirt and Alchemist album existed. It's just that people have to look for it. So then people conducted the searches for the album and interrogated one channel in particular. That channel ended up being Clayman Clutcher. Now there are three main reasons as to why people thought this channel had to do with the missing Earl Sweatshirt album. The first one, which might be a stretch, was the channel's name. Clayman Clutcher is an anagram for Earl Alchemy Cut. So with that information given, people thought that channel had access to the album. The second reason as to why people thought this channel had something to do with the Hidden Earl album is because the channel was made around the same time that Earl and the Alchemist first linked up. He then began posting on the channel regularly, even confirming his 2018 release some rap songs in the comment section of one video in particular. The last reason tying into all of this has to do with a playlist named Investigate Me Nerd. This playlist contains all Chicago artists. And coincidentally, Earl Sweatshirt is from Chicago. So this was a dead giveaway as to this channel being his burner account. And then, after the search was concluded, Earl Sweatshirt finally revealed that the hidden album was Vada. After that big reveal, he dropped it on all streaming services on the 6th of October. And even though the last 3 songs on the album were cut, most of the album still remains on streaming, especially track 3, which is named Sentry. It's crazy to consider that they tried to market this album as an NFT as well. In my opinion, that was an L move, but whatever. This song was also posted on a cryptic website that granted access to the music video after fans answered one question. So there's that, I guess. Okay, that's all you need to know about the background of Sentry's release. Now onto the actual song itself. The song has a runtime of 2 minutes and 32 seconds, which isn't that long. Despite that though, Earl packs a ton of lyricism into that runtime. He starts off the song by saying that he's at peace when he's most high and that the least he could do is account for his own money. He then references his 2022 song Fire in the Hole, which was the 10th and last song off of his album Sick. He also mentions the anime Ghost in the Shell, a very violent anime that stars a female lead. He then references the old saying when hell freezes over when he says froze up. It's colder than hell. So it's unlikely for hell to get cold, right? So that leaves the open interpretation of anything could happen, in the sense that you can't control what happens in life, but you can control your actions. He also talks about covering for others when they needed it by paying their expenses, and talks about not necessarily starting from the bottom like Drake stated in his widely popular 2013 hit Started from the Bottom, and how he started from the bottom of the LA hill, which he knew wasn't the actual bottom. The next line after ties into this well, with him saying that even though he was raised in Illinois, he has African roots tying to the Khoikhoi and Tswana tribes. He also stated before that his father was from the tribe as well. The bloodstains in the next following lyric is reference to the bloodshed that takes place in South Africa. He then mentions the motherland in the next line following the previous one in reference to his mother being a race theorist and civil rights professor. He then references his 2019 EP named Feet of Clay. The EP started to gain attention due to its second track named East. The song is him talking about some deeply personal stuff over a goofy SpongeBob AHH beat. The song was clowned on because he was awfully offbeat. People then joked about the instrumental itself as well as its music video. And then it became a meme. People began using the instrumental in a comedic sense, with them putting the worst vocals ever imaginable on the beat. And that became a running joke over time. But the joke quickly died off and people forgot about the EP until it got 2 new songs added to it in 2020. Then it was forgotten about again. But anyways, back to the song itself. He mentions how his family was stuck in the genes of mud, and the 23 strands is in reference to 23andMe. 23andMe is a DNA test website where you send a sample of your DNA and then you find out where your origins actually lie. Whether you're German or Swedish or something else entirely. It can also link the DNA to someone or some other people who have the same background as you. So, in a way, Earl found out about his African roots a few bars back because of this website. He then mentions jazz singer Freddie Hubbard and how he sings through the axe. Axe could be slang for a weapon, which could be another variation of those chopper sing bars you keep seeing time and time again. Tying into him mentioning the axe in the previous line, He talks about chopping down a tree branch, something that you do with an axe. He then mentions his memories screeching him to a halt in their tracks as they are making him recall these memories from the past. He then ends his verse off by talking about his psychical demons taking control of him and how he has a better mental fortitude now. Seat at the head could also be INQ reference to the head seat at the dining table. And then he states that his lyricism is so strong that it can penetrate his listeners' minds. Because it takes a lot of thinking to understand Earl's music and where he's coming from. Another lyricist that really makes you think about what he's rapping about is Mike, the featured artist on this song. He starts his verse off by comparing his success to that of Drake's, a very popular rapper, but you probably knew that by now. He follows that up by saying that he won't participate in endeavors that don't have money involved with them. So basically time is money and Mike doesn't wanna spend it on something that isn't worthwhile. He then talks about giving it his all in the relationship, his flaws not rising from cheating on someone else, lies and deceit that followed in the relationship. That is then followed up by him breaking off a piece of ZA so that someone else can smoke it with him. ZA is slang for marijuana. Then that is followed up with him saying that as long as the other person plays their part in the relationship then Mike wouldn't have to lie to the other person to make the relationship work. He then references the famous saying nothing is saying something, which basically means that if you say nothing then that reveals more than saying anything at all. Because saying nothing reveals all you need to know. Here Mike is basically saying that saying nothing makes up most of the remarks that are made when someone speaks. So they basically don't have to speak in order to reveal those remarks because they can reveal themselves. He then talks about finally being able to afford his dream car, an Audemars Piguet, a car that has wings on it. It is a nice looking car actually, and I might be able to show you it if I can find the picture of it. If not then my editor will edit something in. He then ends his verse by talking about the passing of his mother and father, and then that's how it ends. Although the monologue from The Tempest is cut out of the outro on streaming services, so that's unfortunate. But overall, a great song from both Mike and Earl that gets pretty personal at times. Also, can we talk about the great run that The Alchemist had this year? He gave us phenomenal back-to-back records and it's a shame that not more people are talking about it. Yeah, whatever. You wanna talk about the next overrated producer instead of giving one his flowers for once. Okay, next. We got a lot of unexpected collaborations in 2023. Lil Yachty and J. Cole, Trippie Redd and Nardo Wick, Drake and Chief Keef, Travis Scott and Westside Gunn, Nicki Minaj and J. Cole and Pusha T and Lola Brooke, to name a few. But when it comes to unexpected collaborations, none come close to what Rome Streetz and Joey Badass had prepared. So now, prepare for greatness.
All I had was a plan, a product, and the people to pitch it to. Apple bags in a small corner.
For the first time ever, Rome Streetz and Joey Badass spit their illest bars on this menacing boom bap beat. And let me just say that both talk their shit here. Rome starts off his verse by saying that he had a plan to make it big in rap music. And he is very ambitious about his goals. As stated in the line where he says broke is brother to miserable, he makes it very clear that being poor leads to sadness or misery, to put it lightly. As for the line where he says death is the daddy, it ties into the being miserable part of the last line where being sad can lead to you ending your own life. And Rome makes it clear that you missed out on how amazing this bar is if you didn't get it. He then goes on to say that this is a school for others to get inspired. He calls the class a master class in murder and that they are not letting imitations into the class. Only genuine students. A master class is full of courses you have to go through in order to learn things. So basically taking Rome's master class will guarantee in you learning how to get away with murder. There's then a line where he could potentially be name dropping Capital Steez, Joey Badass's late friend who took his own life in 2012. May he rest in peace. He then talks about staying on top of the rap game and moving strategically. Then he goes on to say that the mark he leaves on a track is nasty, whether it's his own track or someone else's track. This is further proof that Rome Streetz is the hottest lyricist out right now. Not hotter than Lil Wayne though. He then mentions how he made it out of the flames of Hell's Kitchen and how friends could turn on you in an instant. And then comes Joey's part. He starts his verse off by using a double entendre in reference to the person he's giving the guest feature to, as well as saying that he has a gun on him and that you better not mess with him. He then references the classic Notorious B.I.G. song Warning and references the saying no weapon formed against me shall prosper when he says now any weapons formed against me surely miss in. And what a track, ladies and gentlemen. Overall, 2 cold performances from 2 of the best lyricists in rap right now. And you know what? I wouldn't mind if they link up again. I like their chemistry here. Next. 2 entries ago, I put a song that had both Mike and Earl Sweatshirt on it, and I really like that song. Now both of them are back for my next entry, so I guess it's deja vu.
My mommy be in my thoughts, my body be in the tall glass, but I break.
On this song, Mike talks about his late mother and how he wished that she didn't pass away. Pretty deep stuff to start the song off with. Huh? Well, he already talked about his late mother on Sentry along with his father, so we kinda already knew about the situation. He then talks about how problems like these never resolve and how they never go away even though you think they're gone entirely. It's like the people I address in my videos. They always find a way to come back from the dead and bully me. And I used to think it was impossible for them to do this until I saw that they're completely unfazed from the negative comments I made on them. So it seems like I have no effect on them. Should have told me that sooner before I made the video on you. But anyways, Mike continues on with these themes of his parents passing away having a lingering effect on him, with him stating that his mum is in his thoughts and how his body's in the tall glass. To cope with this loss, he breaks the fall from being so high up. High up and falling are 2 words often associated with each other, so they might have a connection here when Mike says that. He also makes it clear that none of this is his mom's fault as he brought this onto himself and that he should deal with it in a mature sense. He then goes on to say that they wanna catch him down bad, but that won't happen because Mike is done trying to fight and, at this point, he just accepts whatever happens. He also states that everything he states on a song is factual because he hates lying no matter if it's on a song or to someone's face. He just doesn't like to lie. I don't like to lie either. It makes me feel bad for myself. Like I'm trying to cover something up. Like I'm ashamed to tell others how I feel about it. That's why I stay true and honest. When I have problems, I tell people exactly what I'm going through so that I don't have to be in this alone. Now that gets you farther in this world than lying does. I mean, think about it. The only thing lying does is get you in trouble, right? So why would you want to lie? I know Mike definitely doesn't want to, and neither do I. He also states that the light that he and this close friend of his created went dark. Probably because he decided to betray him. As in reference to the line a few bars ago where he said that he could break the dog tags or stay involved. It's clear that Mike and this person aren't very close together and that he can break his ties with Mike if he chooses to or still decide to hang out with him. I'm pretty sure I know what option he's gonna choose though. He then states that even when he was misguided, he plays off the event like nothing happened. Because he is able to choose his own path without being told what to do. And that's how it should be. Don't let others control your life and tell you what you should be doing with it. If you do that and give in, you might live a life you don't want to. And who wants to do that? Nobody. So yeah. He also makes it clear that he was taught to fight to remake a clause. He then tells us that his name should be spelled in all caps like MF Doom told us back in 2004. He then calls himself a giant as he cracks through the walls in reference to his big status and the fact that he's a big deal. When he drops, you listen. And with a cover like that of Burning Desires, I just had to listen. Also Earl Sweatshirt feature. Let's get into his verse. He starts his verse off by saying that you need to know the cost before you become a boss, as well as saying that he's applying pressure. Well, are you? Fucking pause the video and check, you goofy. Nah, I'm just fucking with ya. He then compares himself to a Source twin. The Source twins are a duo comprised of rappers Source Walker and Sancho Saucy. Both have been to prison before. They formed in 2014 and dropped in Source We Trust a year later. They haven't made music in a while though. Wonder where they're at. Anyways, Earl then flexes his watch and how he stays with the heat. He also talks about vehicles and how he couldn't stop speeding even if he wanted to. Careful there, Earl. You wouldn't wanna end up like Source Walker, do you? Nah, I'm trolling. But overall, this is a deep and impactful song made better by its experimental beat. On to the last song from the same album. I guess it's Deja Vu. Matter of fact, me from 4 minutes and 20 seconds ago. It is a feeling of deja vu, a feeling that we have already experienced. Or in this sense, it is something we have already talked about, and that is a song off of Burning Desire. So we talked about the Earl Sweatshirt feature. What about the Larry June feature?
Spinning fast and get back quicker. In the club, only splurging on the blacks.
The final song we'll be talking about today contains the usual production that you would expect Mike to rap over. That and the fact that he brought Larry June along for the ride. On the song, Mike talks about spending cash, keeping his people happy, getting money for his gang. The typical stuff you would expect a rapper to rap about. But then he compares himself and Obama, and, man oh man, I miss him being in office. Can we get Obama back please? Please? Now I'm getting too carried away. Let's move over to Larry June's verse. He talks about driving down the streets of Maryland bumping some Erykah Badu. And not gonna lie, he has taste. I talked about her album Mama's Gun in my Fast Reviews 2 video, so go watch that if you wanna know my full opinion on that album. But basically it's one of the greatest albums ever made. You should listen to it. But anyways, he also talks about switching the whip he's in. Whip is slang for a car in case you didn't figure that out yet. He also talks about having the sauce on him, having multiple flows that he could bring out on a track, as well as having more hoes than the virgin who decided to dislike this video. Don't be that guy. Like the video right now. He also talks about oranges. Unsurprisingly. I mean, they call him the Orange Man for a reason. He made 3 albums based on oranges alone. Orange Season with Cooking Soul, Cooks and Orange Juice with Burner and Orange Print. So here's got a thing for oranges and bad bitches. He ends his verse by telling us that he's putting on a show for this bitch. And of course she's letting him smash. Pause. Overall, a smooth track from both rappers. And that concludes this year's best songs list. So what did you think of the list? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Please let me know. Our next list is gonna be the worst albums of 2023, so stay tuned for that. And with that being said, see you in the next video. Bye.